Imagine finding yourself in a warm room where everyone agreed we'll handle compliance later. And 10 days later, that AI was offline and legal notices were right underway. Welcome. Today, we're exposing why late stage thinking is a sure way to kill your AI initiative. How to flip that script. 2 years ago, I sat in an executive room for a major digital transformation initiative. The VP of product leaned back in his chair and said the words that would later on haunt everybody. Look, we'll fix the compliance stuff later. Right now, we need to show progress. Watch that room full of smart people not in agreement. 6 months later, I watched the same VP explain to the board why they had to write off $8 million in development costs. The implementation worked as designed. It just happened to violate data privacy regulations in 17 countries. The product never launched. The team was disbanded. The VP, does reorg ring a bell? This story isn't unique. It's playing out right now in organizations worldwide. And here's why it's reaching crisis levels. AI development moves at digital speed, while our human thinking often remains trapped in analog, not digital stales. When we built software the old way, fix it later meant delays and cost overruns. Painful, yes, and manageable. With AI, fix it later means your model has already made millions of decisions by the time you get around to fixing it. Your biases are baked in. Your ethical violations have scaled exponentially and are now visible worldwide in minutes, not years. The collision between AI's acceleration and waterfall's procrastination isn't just inefficient, it's becoming existential for organizations. Let's dissect this pattern. We'll trace its roots back to where it came from, calculate its true costs, not just financial, but human and organizational. And most importantly, let's talk about practical ways to break free from this trap before it breaks your AI initiatives. Late stage thinking isn't new. Its waterfall methodology's more persistent ghost, haunting us decades after we claimed to have moved on. In traditional waterfall, work moved in one direction. Requirements went to design, design went to development, development went to testing, and testing went to operations. Each stage was a handoff, a single pass with no looking back. This created an illusion of efficiency. We'll catch problems in testing. QA will find the bugs. Compliance will review before launch. Each stage assumed the next stage would handle what they missed. Even worse, Waterfall created ownership silos. Developers owned code quality, testers owned bug detection, compliance owned regulatory adherence. Nobody owned the whole outcome. When something failed, fingers pointed upward. Development should have built it right. Requirements should have been clearer. Testing should have caught that. The customer, meanwhile, just experienced failures. You might think, we're agile now. We don't do waterfall. Let me show you how stage thinking persists to this day, even though it wears an agile costume sometimes. How many times have you heard, we'll run it by legal once it's ready? That's waterfall thinking. You're treating compliance as a gate at the end, not a guardrail from the day you start the first implementation step and every day thereafter. I worked with a team that spent 9 months building an automated financial advisor. Beautiful work, sophisticated algorithms, intuitive interface. 1 week before launch, compliance reviewed it. They were surprised. They saw functionality that they didn't realize was going to be part of the product. And their verdict, the system's recommendations could be interpreted as personalized financial advice, requiring licenses the company didn't have. 9 months of work, DOA. We'll get user feedback after the MVP. Sound familiar? Not only is it a blatant misuse of the MVP concept, it's also late stage thinking pretending to be lean. Real users don't interact with your AI the way you expect. They don't follow your happy paths. They ask questions you never imagined. They combine features in ways that break your assumptions. When you when you start delaying that user contact, the interactions until after you've built something substantial, you're gambling that your assumptions are correct. With AI, where emergent behaviors surprise even the creators, that's a bet you'll lose. Here's the most dangerous manifestation: treating ethics as a final review. We'll have the ethics committee look at it before launch. Ethics isn't a gate, it's architecture. The decisions you make about data collection, model training, and feature design embed ethical choices throughout your system. By the time an ethics committee reviews your AI, the winner of that game of craps has already been decided. Hint, it's not you. Let's talk numbers. And not just the financial ones. Those are staggering enough. When late stage thinking catches a critical issue, you don't just fix it, you often rebuild it. That compliance issue discovered in week 40, it might require re-architecting decisions made in week 4 and then touching every aspect of the system built thereafter. I've seen organizations spend 3 times their original budget fixing problems that early intervention would have prevented. One company discovered their system violated HIPAA after full deployment. Fix? Completely rebuilding their data pipeline. Cost millions of dollars and months of appeasing angry customers. The reputational cost was huge. And the direct cost pale compared to the opportunity cost. While you're fixing what should have been caught early, your competitors are shipping new features. Your market window is closing. Your first mover advantage, gone. It evaporates. The timing can be brutal. If you depend on holiday sales and you discover bias issues in your recommendation engine, you'll miss the holidays. Meanwhile, your competitors are celebrating at your expense. The financial costs hurt. Yes. The human costs devastate. Picture this: you're an engineer. You've poured 6 months into perfecting a natural language model. You've optimized every parameter, refined every feature. You're proud of your work. Then legal says you can't ship it. Your masterpiece goes in the trash. I've watched this movie time and time again. In fact, it's one of the things that discouraged many teams during agile transformations. They'd worked hard, done such great work, adapted to this crazy new way of doing things, only to see all that hard work come to a screeching halt inches from the doorway. This isn't just disappointing, it's demoralizing at a fundamental level. When people's hard work repeatedly gets scrapped due to late discovered issues that they really should have been discussed all along, when that happens, they stop putting in their best effort. They excel when excellence might get thrown away. Late stage discoveries create emergencies. Emergencies create crunch time, and crunch time creates burnout. We need to fix this compliance issue before the quarterly board meeting. Heard that? The CEO promised this feature. We have to make it work. I've heard that many times. If we don't ship by the end of the month, we lose the contract. Teams in constant emergency mode don't innovate. They survive. They patch instead of building. They compromise quality for speed. Eventually, they leave for companies that plan. The compound effects ripple outward, creating organizational scar tissue. After a few late stage disasters, organizations learn the wrong lesson. Instead of learning to catch problems early, they learn to avoid trying anything new at all because it's risky. This is how the good old, that's not the way we do things around here happens. Remember what happened with the customer service AI? Let's not take that risk again. Innovation dies not in a bang, but in a whimper of risk committees and approval chains. When organizations become known for failed launches and pulled products, the damage extends beyond the balance sheet. Top talent goes sorry, top talent goes elsewhere. Partners become weary and customers lose faith. When a company has to pull 3 consecutive AI features due to late discovered issues, their stock price reflects not just the direct costs, but the market's lost confidence in their ability to execute. Yes, we want to promote transparency. When things happen, we want to be transparent. And if this happens over and over again, if it becomes a bad pattern, that's what's going to hurt us. Everything I've described gets amplified, sometimes exponentially when AI enters the picture. We always have to keep that in front and center as we enter this age of AI. That's the nature of AI. When a human loan officer, for example, they show a bias for whatever personal reasons, whatever professional, it's one human being interacting with others. And that affects dozens of applications. It's self-contained just by the nature of being human to human interactions. When when we what we're talking about is an AI loan system that's doing it, and it's showing bias, it's affecting millions, and it does so with perfect consistency and lightning speed. If a bank AI were to systematically offer lower credit limits to women and nobody's watching every second and every decision, which of course is impossible to do, by the time the damage becomes visible in reports, the AI has already processed over millions of applicants. Can you say lawsuits? And AI systems don't stay static, they drift, they learn, they develop behaviors you didn't explicitly program. This is a critical concept to incorporate into this new era. We're accustomed to computers reliably executing the same logic in the same exact way time and time again. If you believe that's how AI works, you need to stop immediately and take an AI 101 course, because that's not it. An AI system could end up giving increasingly generous refunds over time. Why? At some point, it learned that generous refunds led to higher satisfaction scores, which was one of its optimization metrics. By the time anyone notices, checks are already out the door. Here's what makes AI late stage discoveries particularly painful. You can't always fix them. When an AI has learned problematic patterns, you can't just patch the code. You need to retrain the model. That means new data, new processing, new validation cycles. When a social media company discovers that their content recommendation AI system has learned to promote divisive content, fixing the problem costs them months on retraining. Meanwhile, they see drops in engagement metrics because of reputational damage. Yes, AI speeds things up. Be careful what you are speeding up, because by the time you notice, you won't be able to stop it on a dime. Once customers experience AI bias or errors, rebuilding trust takes, it's not an easy thing to do. You can't do it overnight. It takes time. They remember when your AI discriminated against them, gave them bad advice, or violated their privacy. We fixed the issue. That alone doesn't erase the memory of being wronged by an algorithm. Customers who feel betrayed by AI often refuse to interact with any of your automated systems, forcing expensive human interventions. So, enough doom and gloom. Let's talk solutions. How do we break free from this late stage thinking? The antidote to late stage thinking is shift left mindset. Bring every consideration, whether it's compliance, ethics, user experience, technical feasibility, all of that to the beginning of the process. This isn't about having more meetings, it's about having different conversations. Instead of just sitting around and thinking, how do we build this? Start with conversations that go along the way, the lines of, could go wrong if we build this thing. Every AI initiative starts with a cross-functional kickoff, not a requirements gathering, a perspective gathering, legal compliance, ethics, security, operations, and yes, actual end users, all in the room from day one. You want to consider requiring day zero summits for every initiative. That's where every stakeholder who could eventually say no, they have to be present and engaged in discussions so that they can move from no to yes if from the very start. Before writing any code, starting any aspect of your process, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be just programming, it can be anything. Run failure imagination workshops. Gather your team and ask them, if this initiative failed spectacularly, what would be the headlines? Think about it. AI insurance bot denies all claims over 65. Banks AI accidentally reveals customer data. Retailers AI recommends inappropriate products to children. These nightmare scenarios become your test cases, your guardrails, your design constraints. Create a red team whose job is to break your AI before the world does. Give them permission to be creative, malicious, unconventional. One takes company adversarial team. They could discover that their AI assistant would reveal proprietary information if asked in poetry form. Bizarre? Yeah. Possible in real world? Absolutely. Don't save compliance for the end. Build it into your CI/CD pipeline. Every commit, every model update, every feature action that you trigger, um, make sure that it has an automated compliance and ethics check built into the process of creating it. This isn't just about catching problems. It's about making good practices habitual. When ethics checks run automatically, ethical thinking becomes part of development, not an afterthought, not something that you check at the gate, not something that compliance is going to go through the checklist at the very end of it. So what does success look like? Say a major investment firm builds an AI portfolio advisor. Old approach would be build it, test it, then check regulations. Instead, they embed a compliance expert in the development team from day one. Every feature discussion includes how does this affect our fiduciary duty? Every design decision considers regulatory implications. The result? They significantly increase the likelihood of launching with zero compliance issues, while their competitors lag behind to retrofit compliance into their already built systems. Let's imagine that a healthcare company trains a diagnostic model. When their ethics advisor, present from the project start, notices something odd. The training data is predominantly from urban hospitals. That's not a bug in the traditional sense. It's a bias waiting to happen. Rural patients present symptoms differently, arrive at different stages of illness, have different co-diagnosis. An AI trained only on urban data would systematically misdiagnose rural patients. By applying shift left mindset, they can catch this early and adjust their data collection strategy. Otherwise, if they discover this after development, or worse, deployment, the lawsuits would be devastating. But the human cost, let's always remember about the human cost. Misdiagnosed patients would be unconscionable. And all because we were trying to automate and be more efficient. So let's crystallize what we've covered. First, late stage thinking is waterfall's ghost haunting our AI initiatives. It manifests as compliance gates, delayed user feedback, and checkbooks ethics. Second, costs compound. Financial costs multiply into human costs, which cascade into organizational paralysis. With AI, these costs scale exponentially. Third, breaking the pattern requires cultural change, not just process change. Shift left isn't a recipe, it's a mindset that brings all perspectives to the beginning of our process, of everything that we do. And fourth, practical steps exist. Failure imagination workshops, adversarial testing, continuous compliance. These aren't theoretical concepts, they're proven practices that work. The future of AI isn't determined by our algorithms, it's determined by when we choose to ask the hard questions. Late stage thinking pushes those questions to the end when they're expensive or impossible to address, while shift left or early stage thinking brings them to the beginning when they can shape the better outcomes and they can save us a lot of time and money down the road. Your AI initiatives don't have to end in warm rooms and legal notices. They can end in launched products that delight users while respecting regulations, ethics, and human values. The choice is yours. When will you start asking the hard questions? What late stage disasters have you witnessed in your organizations that you can learn from? Drop a comment below. Let us discuss how to prevent them. And if you'd like to learn more about this shift left mentality and how to implement it in your organization, click one of these. I'll be happy to tell you all about it.